Right, so we're back here in this part 2 of this tutorial, and in the last one we ended our foundation that we were setting up to go back into the granny stitch, and I just need to go ahead and bind off. If you're changing colors, you can chain up 2. If you're changing colors, clip your yarn, and then you can go ahead and pull that loop on through and then cinch it down just to bind off. If you are not changing colors, then obviously you can just go ahead and continue on up. So I'm going to go right here though in that corner, right there in that stitch, I'm sorry, in the top of that first stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and add on the yarn that I'm doing the granny in. So we're going to do a little slip knot and bring that yarn on through, pulling up that loop, and then we're going to chain 1 just to lock that in place. So now we're going to go ahead and begin the granny stitch again. So I'm going to go ahead, and everyone will be doing this. We need to chain 3 times total. So I'm going to chain up 2 more times. So you're going to begin with a chain 3, and then you're going to turn your work. Now we're going to go ahead and do 2 more double crochets into that same exact stitch. So you're going to go back down in that same stitch, and you're going to do 2 more double crochets. That chain 3 is counting as your very first double crochet. So go ahead and do 3 double crochets to begin out this row, and I'm going to go ahead and lower my camera down, so we're going to pause one moment. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and wrap our yarn around our hook, and we're going to do another double crochet, but this time we're going to go into this chain space that's right here in between these 2 triple crochets. So we're going to go ahead and go in there, and we're going to do 3 double crochets. So there's my first one. Here is my second. And my third. So we're looking like that. We can kind of stretch them apart a little bit. You can see we've got our first 2. So now we're going to be putting a granny stitch, so 3 double crochets in each of these chain spaces that we created. So we're going to go ahead and jump right over here to this chain space. It's a chain 5, and we're going to work right around that doing 3 double crochets. Third. And now we're going to jump over here, so we're going to skip over this double crochet and go right over here into that chain 5 space and do 3 double crochets. There's 1, here is 2, and 3. Now we're going to jump over here to this next chain 5 space and do 3 double crochets. There's 1, here's 2, and number 3. So you're going to continue on in the exact same manner, just jumping into those chain spaces, skipping over the double crochets and the triple crochets, and just working around those chain 5s, placing your 3 double crochets. You're going to want to have 3 double crochets worked around each and every one of those. And we're going to meet back up when you get up here to the center, because we're going to do the center point together. So we're going to go ahead and continue on up, and then when you get to that peak on the shawl, you're going to come back to this video and we're going to do the center together. So you can go ahead and pause here and continue to work on up till you get to the center. Alright, and we're back together now. We've worked on up, putting 3 double crochet sets, so sets of 3 double crochets into each of the chain 5 spaces all along the side. And now, as you will see here, I just lost my stitch marker, but I did have a stitch marker right here in that center triple crochet just to mark where my center was, and I have already placed 3 double crochets in the chain that's leading up to that. So let me lay my work down so you can see. So we're right here where we've got our 2 floral lace portions, and here I've placed my 3 double crochets right there. Now I'm going to move that stitch marker out of the way, and I'm going to work this peak by putting 3 double crochets, chain 2, 3 double crochets, all into the top of this triple crochet. So we're going to go right here into the top of that stitch, and we're going to do 3 double crochets. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Now we're going to chain 2, 1 and 2. And we're going to go back down into that same exact stitch, and we're going to do 3 more double crochets. There's 1, going right there into that same exact stitch. Here's 2, and here is 3. And now, just like we've been doing without chaining anything, I'm going to go right over here into this chain 5 space, directly beside where we were just working, and I'm going to place 3 double crochets. There's 2, and here is 3. So I'm going to go ahead and mirror exactly what I did on the other side, and I'm going to keep jumping over to my chain 5 spaces and placing 3 double crochets, working right around that chain, all the way down to the end of this row. And we're going to meet back up at the end to do our last 3 double crochets into the very last stitch, and we'll meet back up. So you can go ahead and pause, work on down the rest of your row, and we'll meet back up at the end. All right, so you are meeting back up with me at the end of this row, and as you'll see here, we've got this last final set here where we have our triple crochet, chain space, triple crochet. So what we're going to do first is I've already worked right here into this chain 5 space with my 3 double crochet. So I'm going to go over here, jumping over, skipping over that triple crochet. I'm going to go right here into that chain space, and I'm going to do 3 double crochets. There's 1, here's 2, and here is 3. And now what we're going to do is we're going to count up from the bottom of this chain, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to go right there into the top of that 4th chain, and we're going to work 3 double crochets right there into that. So we're going into that 4th chain, counting up from the bottom, and we're going to do 3 double crochets right there, all into that same chain. There's number 2, and here is number 3. And now that row is completed. So we're going to go ahead and move on up to our next row. You're going to be completing a total of 5 more granny stitch rows. So each row is going to begin and end exactly the same. We're going to go ahead and chain up 3 to start the next row. And this will be row 2 of this portion of the granny. So chain 3, turn your work. And if you do notice a little bit of like curling going on with your piece, do not worry about that. The weight of this project is going to pull that down. It's going to work out just fine. You will not have that problem as you move on and add more rows. It'll start to flatten itself out. So now we've got our chain 3 on our hook, and we're going to go right here into this very first stitch. We want to work directly into the top of that double crochet and do 2 more double crochets, because that chain 3 is counting as our first double crochet. There's 1 and 2 more. So I've got a total of 3 double crochets right there coming out of that very first stitch. And now, just like before, we're going to be working in between our sets of 3 double crochets. We're going to go directly in between them and place 3 double crochets all the way down the row. And down we go. We're going to meet back up at the center again, and you can go ahead and make sure that you're using your stitch markers so you don't zoom past that. But I'm going to meet back up with you guys. You're just going to place 3 double crochets in between all of the sets of 3 double crochets from the previous row all the way up till we get to the center, and then we'll work that portion together, and then you'll be able to move on and complete the other 3 rows you need. Then we'll be meeting back up to do the lace row again, because it's going to be slightly different when you add the lace portion on the next section. So just bear with me. Go ahead and pause the video here, and we'll meet back up at the center of this row so we can do the center together. All right, we're meeting up right here at the center. we're going to go ahead and move our stitch marker out of the way. And just like we did previously when we were doing the granny stitch, we're here in the center, so we're going to be working 3 double crochets right there into that chain 2 space. So we're going right there in that chain 2, working 3 double crochets, and then we're going to chain 2 and put 3 more double crochets right back there into that same chain 2 space. So there's my first set of 3 double crochets. Now I'm going to chain 2 and go right back down into that same exact stitch, and I'm going to do 3 more double crochets. And that is how each and every center is going to be worked on all of the next rows that you're going to do. You're going to do a total of 5 rows of this granny stitch. We're working on row 2 right now, so you're going to complete 3 more rows of this after you finish this one. And then we'll be meeting back up for the lace portion. I went ahead and put my stitch marker back in place so I don't zoom past that center point. And now you're just going to do the same thing down this other side that you just completed on your first side. You're going to be working the 3 double crochets in between the sets of 3 double crochets from the previous row, the granny stitches. You're going to work right in between those, doing sets of 3 double crochets. So we're going to do this all the way down, and then when we get to the very last stitch, I'll be coming back to work the very last of the row with you, but we're just going to be placing the 3 double crochets in the very last stitch, just like we did when we began the row. We're going to place 3 at the beginning. You're always going to place 3 at the end in the very first and last stitches. So we're going to go ahead and pause here, work on down the rest of this side, and we'll meet back up when we get over here to the end, and we'll do that together. So we are here at the end of this row, and I just want to make absolutely sure you work in between these 2 sets of 3 double crochets. They're very close together, so it's easy to kind of overlook them, but make sure that you do separate those and work into them. So you want, or work in between them. So you want to go right there in between those 2 and make sure that you place your 3 double crochets. Just like we have been doing the same thing. Now we're here at the very end of the row, and we're going to go ahead and place the 3 double crochets right here at the top of the chain 3. It's the chain 3 that's right here at the end of the row. So we want to count up 1, 2, and 3 and make sure we go into the top of that third little chain stitch, and we want to go ahead and go in there and do 3 double crochets right there, all worked into that same exact stitch, just like that. Oops, make sure you complete it out. So there's 2, and now this last one is going to go right in there as well. So all 3 worked into that same exact stitch. And that's how we end out each and every one of these rows. Now you're going to go ahead and chain up 3 and repeat exactly what you just did. Again, you're going to do row 3, 4, and 5 of the granny stitch. So a total of 5 rows of this granny before we switch back to the lace portion. So you can go ahead and pause the video here, work your next 3 rows until you are ready to move on to the granny portion again, and we will meet back up to add in that granny, I'm sorry, not the granny portion, the lace portion. We're going to meet back up to add in the lace portion. So we're going to go ahead and pause here, and we'll meet back up when you complete all 5 of the granny stitch rows. Alright, so we are coming back. We have just finished doing 5 more rows of our granny stitch, and this is what our project is starting to look like right now. So we're starting to grow out quite a bit. So now we're going to be transitioning back to the lace portion, and I do want to bring my finished one into view so I can show you guys the difference right here. Pay attention to this section right here. In the finished version, the reason why we're having to do all these sections together is our next section, here's where we're at on where we're working. Okay, so we've just completed this. So we're moving on to do this section, and that's where we have the change. It's really right up here. The beginning of the row starts out a little bit differently. We're going to begin doing the floral lace part sooner on this next row. We're going to do it right away, basically, when we start the row, when we get to that row anyway. And then from there, we're going to do another 5 rows of the granny stitch. Then we're going to transition back again to the lace right here. And we're going to be going back to where we have the 2 here in the center. And then we're going to do another 5 rows of the granny. And then we'll be ending out with the 1 center point on the end of our shawl. So we have a really nice pretty border. So that is why we're going step by step and row by row in this tutorial, to kind of show you guys exactly what you need to do. So we have made it to the point where we're going to be adding this section in right here. We're going to have our floral lace is going to come to a point here in the center versus the 2 points that we had right here where it's coming out this way. So we're going to go ahead and get started on that now. Then we'll be transitioning back to the granny again. And all those transitions are exactly the same. It's really the lace that just changes just slightly. Each of these granny sections from this point, they're all 5 rows of the granny. And then we do the same thing with the lace. We just do our points at the peak of the shawl, just slightly different. It's going to match up because every other row is rotating to this. So you will see what I'm talking about as you're working yours. And we're going to go ahead and get started back on our piece. And if you're like me and you're going to be changing yarn, I put a little stitch marker in so I wouldn't pull this out. But I'm going to go ahead and bind off, and I'm going to have to clip my yarn. So I'm going to go ahead and do that real quick and bring the camera on down so that you guys can have a close-up of what we're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just, I've already clipped my yarn, and I'm going to go ahead and just chain up 2 to do my bind off. That's kind of what I recommend. I know a lot of people say don't knot, but I say you need a knot. So I'm going to go ahead and insert my hook right here into the top of this last double crochet. And I'm going to grab my new yarn that I'm going to add on with a little slip knot. And we're going to go ahead and pull that up 1 loop. And then I'm going to grab both and do a single chain. So now we're going to be doing double crochet, chain 1, double crochet all the way down the row, just like we did before. So I've already got 1 chain on my hook, so I'm going to go ahead and chain up 2 more times. So chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, and I'm going to chain 1 for my chain 1 space, and now I'm going to turn my work. And now what I'm going to need to do is I'm going to, just like we did before, I'm going to wrap my hook, and I'm going to go back down to the same exact stitch, and I'm going to do a double crochet right there in that very first stitch in this row. Now I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to do a double crochet in the very next stitch. And I'm going to chain 1 and do a double crochet in the very next stitch. So same thing we were doing before. We're going to chain 1, double crochet in each and every stitch all the way down, and we're going to meet back up at the center point, and we'll work the center together. So you can go ahead and pause the video here and continue on going down, doing a chain 1, double crochet in each and every single stitch in this row. Now we're here up at the center, and I just wanted to show you guys, I want to make sure that you are working into this stitch right here. It's really important that you don't miss it and jump immediately over here into that chain 2 space at the peak. So I'm going to work this last stitch right here. I already have the chain 1 on my hook, and now I'm going to do a chain 1, and I'm just going to go ahead and remove my little stitch marker here. Don't need it at this moment. So get that over out of the way. So I've got a chain 1 on my hook already. And just like we did before, we're going to be doing a double crochet right here into that chain 2 space. We're going to chain 1 and do another double crochet right there into that chain 2 space. So just like that. Now we're going to chain 2, and we're going to go back down that same chain 2 space. And we're going to do a double crochet chain 1, double crochet. Now we're going to be doing a chain 1, and we're going to make sure we scoot our stitches over because we don't want to miss this very first stitch. So we're going to go ahead and work our double crochet into that because we've already got our chain 1 on our hook. And now it's the same thing you've been doing. You're going to chain 1 and double crochet in each and every stitch going back down on this side of the shawl. So you're just going to go ahead and pause here, and we will meet back up at the end of this row so that we can work that last stitch together. So you can go ahead and pause, and I'll be back in just a moment to work the last stitch with you. Alright, and so we're back. We're here at the end of this row, and you'll notice here, and it's real easy to miss this, but it is your chain 3 that began that row. So we're going to be going into the top of this chain 3. So we're going to count up from the bottom, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to go into that third chain, and that is where we're going to be doing our last double crochet. I already have a chain 1 on my hook, and I'm doing our last double crochet right there. Or that's where we're working our last stitches. Now we're going to do a chain 1, and we're going to go back into that same exact stitch and do another double crochet. So we're going to be ending those rows always by working 2 stitches here at the end to the top of the last stitch in the row. So we've got 2 stitches worked right there in that stitch, and they are separated by a chain 1. So now we're going to move up to the next row. We're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now we're going to turn our work. And this is what we're starting to look like. It's looking good. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to be doing, just like we did before, we're going to be skipping this very first chain space, this chain 1 space, and we're going to work right here into the very next. And we're going to go directly into that and do a single crochet. Now we're going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to be skipping now what we're going to be doing for the rest of the row. We're going to skip 2 of the chain spaces. So 1, 2, and we're going to work here into the third with a single crochet. Now we're going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to be skipping the next 2 chain spaces and going into the third, doing a single crochet. So this is exactly like what we've done previously when we did our last section of the lace. You're just going to continue to do that. Chain 5, skip 2 of your chain spaces, these chain 1 spaces, and go into the third with a single crochet, working directly around that chain. So you're going to continue on down, and we are going to meet back up at the center so we can work that center of the shawl, the peak, together just like we've done previously. So go ahead and pause here and meet back up with me when you get to the center. Alright, so we are here at the center. I have just worked a chain 5, skipped these 2 chain spaces, and worked right here on my single crochet. And that leaves me coming up here to this peak. So right here at this peak, I'm going to be working my chain 5. So we're going to go ahead and chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to come into this chain 2 space, and I'm going to do a single crochet. Now I'm going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we have to mimic what we did over here. So we're going to be coming right down into this first chain space right here and working a single crochet. We're not going to skip anything in this case. We're just going to work right there into that space so that we are doing exactly what we did over here. So now we're going to be chaining 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to continue on just as we have been, skipping 2 chain spaces and going into the third, doing our single crochet. So we're right back to what we're used to doing. There's chain 3, 4, and 5. We're going to skip 2 chain spaces, go into the third, and do our single crochet all the way down until we get to the end, and I will meet back up with you at the end of this row so that we can work those very last stitches together. Alright, so now we're here at the end of the row, and I've got just this one little chain left right here to work with. So I'm going to chain 2 this time, And then I'm going to wrap my yarn because I'm going to do a double crochet now into the top of the chain 3. So I'm going to find that 1, 2, and 3. And so I'm going to do a double crochet right there. And that leaves us in a position where we are up high, and that's where we need to be for this next row. So we're going to go ahead and turn our work here. We can do any chaining that we need to do on this next section, but let's just take a look at our work real quick. That way you guys can see what it's looking like and kind of know that you are doing yours right. Got all these pretty chains work that we're going to use. That's our foundation for doing our floral lace. So now we're going to go ahead. I'm going to move the camera back into position and we're going to get started. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just do a quick little chain and then turn our work because it's wanting to kind of twist me a little bit, not doing that chain before I turned. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to immediately start working in this very next chain 5 space. So we're not going to work into this one that I've put my finger in. We're going to go right here into this next one, and we're going to do our 8 double crochets now. So we're just going to start off doing the 8 double crochets right there into that chain 5 space. There's 2, here's 3, here's number 4, number 5, here's 6, number 7, and number 8. And just like always, we're going to stop and take a quick little chance to check our count. I'm going to make sure that I'm working, or I'm only counting these stitches that are in this loop. So we're going to count 2, 4, 6, and 8. So now what I need to do is I need to go ahead and anchor this down. So this here is a chain 5, so we're going to go into that 3rd chain. So skip 1, 2, and go right here into the 3rd, just like we were doing before, and do our single crochet to anchor that all down. Now we're going to chain 4, 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this is where we turn our work. As this thing grows, it gets a little bit harder to turn all of that, but we're going to go ahead and start doing our double crochet clusters. So we're going to go ahead and wrap our yarn and work into this very first stitch, pulling up a loop, grab and pull through 2, and then we're going to hold it. We're going to wrap our yarn again, insert into the very next stitch, grab a loop and pull it up, grab a loop and pull through 2, and now we're going to hold it with 3 loops on our hook. So we're going to grab our yarn and pull through all 3 loops. Now we're going to chain 3, and we're going to do the same thing. We're going to repeat this total of 3 more times. We're just going to cluster together in sets of 2 those double crochets from the previous row. So we're going to go ahead and cluster, chain 3. We're going to move on. We're going to work in these next 2 stitches, doing that cluster stitch. Working into the very next one. 3 loops on our hook. We're going to grab and pull through all 3 loops. Now we're going to chain 3 again. We're going to move on. This is going to be our last 2. We're going to go ahead and work in those. Doing the same thing. We're going to do that cluster. And now we're going to grab and pull through all 3. And now we need to chain 2. And we're going to be coming down here and going into this little area. If you take a look, we've got this chain 2 right here and our double crochet. Well, this is our double crochet. But we're going to go right there into this little chain space. It's kind of the top of the double crochet. And that's where we're going to do our single crochet. Just to finish that off. Now we're going to chain 1 and we're going to turn our work again. Now we need to do our 2 single crochets around the chain 2 that we just made. So we're going to do our first single crochet, and here is our second. And now we're going to be jumping over into our chain 3 spaces. We're going to do a single crochet, then we're going to wrap our yarn, go back in that same space, pull up a loop. That's going to be our half double crochet. So we pull through all 3 loops in our hook. Now we're going to do 2 double crochets side by side right there in that same chain 3 space. So there's my first double crochet. Here is my second. Now we're going to do our half double crochet again. So we're going to go in, pull up a loop, pull through all 3 loops on our hook. Now we're going to do our single crochet again. And that ends out and we end up with that cute little fan. So now we're going to jump over. We're going to repeat that 2 more times, working into each of these chain 3 spaces. So we're going to move over here to the next one. We don't chain anything. We just jump over and do our single crochet. Now we do our half double crochet. We do our 2 double crochets. 1 and 2. Now we do our half double crochet again. And we do our single crochet again. And then we jump over. We're going to do it one last time. Jumping over, we do our single crochet. We do our half double crochet. We do the 2 double crochets. We do another half double crochet and 1 single crochet. And now we're going to move over here. We're now at our chain 4 that we began with. We're going to go right around that chain 4 and work our first single crochet. And then we're going to count up from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, and make sure we go into that 3rd chain, and we're going to do our single crochet right there in that chain. Now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to go down here into the very next chain 5 space, and just make sure you're not accidentally anchoring down here in this chain 5 that you've already worked in. So we're going to go right there in the center of that chain 5. So we're going to work into that 3rd chain and do a single crochet to anchor all that down. And then we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And now we're going to jump over here to this next chain 5 space. And we are going to go into that center chain, into the 3rd one, and do a single crochet to anchor that down. Now we're going to jump over here into the very next chain 5 space. And we start over again with our 8 double crochets. So you're going to be working just like you did all the way down. Then we're going to meet back up as you get to that center peak. We're going to work the center together. So we're going to do that point part of the shawl together for this row. But you can go ahead and pause here and keep working in the same exact way, working the floral lace sections. And we will meet up at the center. Right, so we are meeting back up here at the peak of the shawl where you've got these 2 little loops left. You've just finished out this floral fan right here, this floral lace section. And now what we're going to do is we're going to chain 3. 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to come over here into this first chain 5 space here in the center. And we're going to go ahead and anchor down with our single crochet. And now, instead of skipping over to the next one, doing any of that, we're actually just going to start working right here in the same chain 5 space. So, or chain 5 loop. So we're going to do 4 double crochets in this loop. So here's my first one. Here is my second. Here's number 3. Number 4. Now we're going to jump over here to this next chain 5 loop that's right here at the peak of our shawl. And we're going to do our other 4 double crochets because for these floral sections we need the 8 double crochets. So we're going to do 4 on each side. And so there's number 2, 3, and 4. And so we now have our 8 double crochets that we needed. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're just worked over these 2 chain 5 loops. So now to mimic what we have going on over here, we're going to anchor down with our single crochet, but we're going to do that right here in that same chain 5 loop. We're just going right back down that chain 5 that we've been working in, and we're going to anchor down there. Now we're going to go ahead and chain up 4, and the rest is exactly as you have been doing. We're going to go ahead and turn our work at this point. Now we're going to start doing our double crochet clusters, and we're going to start right here going into that first double crochet, pull up a loop, pull through 2 and hold it, and wrap our yarn again, go into the very next stitch, pulling up a loop, pull through 2 and hold it, 3 loops on our hook. So we're going to grab our yarn, go through all 3, we're going to chain 3, and we're going to do the next 2 double crochets in the same exact way, go into that very next stitch and do the cluster. Go into the very next stitch, cluster those 2 together. Now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to go here to these very next 2 stitches. We're going to work each of those. So we're going to go in and do our cluster in the first, second, and now we're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we've got these last 2 right here to work. So we're going to go ahead and do the cluster on those 2. And now we're going to do our chain 2, 1 and 2. And now we've got this chain 3 is what you've been working in, like doing your anchor down. So you just go in that center stitch and do your single crochet. Now we chain 1 and we turn our work. Now we're going to go ahead and do our 2 single crochets around that chain 2. There's 1 and 2. Now we jump over here into the chain 3 space and we do our single crochet, our half double crochet, our 2 double crochets, 1 and 2, our half double crochet, and our single crochet. Got to repeat that 2 more times. So we're going to go ahead and jump over here to the next chain 3 and do a single crochet, our half double crochet, 2 double crochets. There's 1, here's 2, and we're going to do our half double crochet again and our single crochet. Now we're going to jump over here to our last chain 3 loop and do our single crochet. Going to do our half double crochet. Going to do our 2 double crochets. And we're going to do a half double crochet and a single crochet. Now we're at our chain 4 that we started out with right here. So we're going to go ahead and go right in there around it and do a single crochet. Then we're going to go into the 3rd chain up. So count out 1, 2, 3. Go into that 3rd chain and do a single crochet. Now we're going to chain 1. And we're going to be coming down here to this next chain 5. And we're going to go into that 3rd center stitch right there. And we're going to do our single crochet to anchor all that down. So here is what you have right there in the center. And now we're going to go and do our chain 3, 1, 2, 3. And we're going to anchor down in this very next stitch right there in the center. 1, 2, 3. And now we'll go ahead and start doing our 8 double crochets again and completing the floral section. So you're just going to continue to work in the same way as you have been, and you're going to go ahead and work on down, and then we will end out this row together, and then we will move on up to laying our foundation work to go back to the granny, because we're going to be doing 5 more rows of the granny stitch after this. So we'll go ahead and continue to work on down. We'll meet back up when you reach the end of this row and finish it out together. Alright, so we're here at the very end of this row. I've got my 8 double crochets already worked into this chain 5. And we've only got this one last chain 5 left on this row. So we're just going to go ahead and anchor down just as we've been doing. We're going to go into that 3rd stitch and do our single crochet. Now we're going to chain up 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. And this is going to be worked exactly as you have been. So you're just going to go ahead and finish out. You're going to do your clusters just like you've been doing, and then we're going to work out. I'm just going to show you where to anchor basically is why I'm coming back. When you finish doing the fan or floral lace section, and you've got to come back and anchor down at the very end. So we're going to go ahead and finish this out together, and I'm on my 3rd set of the cluster together. Chain 3s in between, just like you've been doing. Nothing different here. You're gonna chain 2, anchor down into this chain 3 space right there in the center, that 2nd stitch, and I'm gonna chain 1, turn my work. I'm gonna go ahead and do my 2 single crochets right there around that chain 2 that we just made. Now I'm gonna do my single crochet, my half double crochet, 2 double crochets all into this chain 3 space. My second double crochet, back to my half double crochet, and single crochet, and then we jump over here into this next chain 3 and do our single crochet, our half double crochet, our 2 double crochets. There's number 1, here's number 2, and we're going to do our half double crochet and our single crochet. Now we've got to do that one more time, jumping over into this chain 3, doing a single crochet, our half double, 1 double crochet, 2 double crochet, back to the half double crochet, and the single crochet. And now here's our chain 4 that we started out with. We're going to do our single crochet right around that chain 4, and then we're going to do our next single crochet right there on the top of the chain 3, or the third chain from the bottom. And now we've got a chain 1, and we're just going to go right down here to this very first chain right here. It's right above this double crochet. Go into that first chain, and that is where we're going to anchor down with our single crochet. And that's how you finish out that row. So now we're going to go ahead, just like we've done before, we're going to start laying our foundation, and we're going to chain 7. So I've got 4, 5, 6, and 7. And now we're going to turn our work. We're going to be doing our triple crochet now, so we're going to go twice, wrap the yarn twice around our hook, and we're going to come back into the same exact stitch and insert there, pulling up our loop, pull through 2, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. Now we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So this foundation work is exactly like what you did before. We're going to go in between the double crochets in this little fan section, go insert right in between those, and we're going to do a single crochet. Or I'm sorry, we're going to do a double crochet. We're going to insert in there and do a double crochet. My bad. And now we're going to chain 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to go over here to the very next little fan section, go in between our double crochets, and do a double crochet right in between those. We're going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to go over here in between the double crochets and do a double crochet. So I'm just inserting right in there, working around that stitch work, doing a double crochet. Now we're going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And now here we are at the space in between our little floral lace portions. We're going to do our triple crochet again. So we're going to wrap the yarn around our hook twice, and you're going to come down here. You can see you've got a single crochet down there. So you're just going to go into that single crochet, pulling up a loop. You're going to grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2, grab and pull through 2. Now we're going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to jump over here to our next little floral lace section. Go in between those double crochets and do our double crochet. Here's number 1. Now we're going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And we're going to jump over here to the next little fan. We're going to go in between the double crochets, and we're going to do a double crochet. We're going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We're going to jump over here to our next little fan, go in between those double crochets, work right around that, and do a double crochet. And we're going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Now we're in between our 2 floral lace sections, so we're going to go ahead and wrap the yarn twice around our hook because we are going to do a triple crochet. Going to come right down here. You're going to find that single crochet there in the center, and you're just going to go ahead and do your triple crochet right there. And you're going to chain 5 again, and you're going to continue on down, and then we're going to meet back up when you get to the center so I can show you how to work that center portion. So you're going to go ahead and pause the video right here. Keep doing your double crochet, chain 5 into each of these little fan sections, and then doing your chain 5 triple crochet in the little portions in between the two fans. And I'll see you guys in a moment when we get to the peak. Alright, so we're up here at our peak, and this is the center now of the shawl. And I've got a chain 5 right here on my hook. And we're just going to work this actually exactly as you have been. You're going to do your double crochet in the center of this little fan portion. You're going to chain 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you're going to come over here. Now this is the dead center of the shawl. You're just going to work your double crochet right there in between the two double crochets, just like you have been. You're going to chain 5. There's 4, 5, and we're going to go over here and work our double crochet on that. So it's just going to look like this. So it's going to look exactly like all the other ones. So I'm going to chain 5 again. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And I'm going to do my triple crochet. And I'm going to anchor it right down here in the single crochet. 1, 2, 3. Pull through, pull through, pull through, I guess I should be saying. And you're going to chain 5 and you're going to continue on down. We will meet back up when you get to the end of your row where we're going to be doing our triple crochet, chain 3, triple crochet at the very end into the last stitch. But like I said, we'll meet up down there and I'll do that with you guys. So continue on as you have been, and then we will meet back up in just a moment. So go ahead and pause the video here. Alright, we are at the very end of this row. And now what we're going to need to do is, I've got a chain 5 on my hook. And we're going to have to do our triple crochet, chain 3, triple crochet. But where do you anchor it? That's why we're here. So, we're going to go down here. Do you guys remember where we had to anchor in before? Right there in that stitch. We've wrapped our yarn around our hook twice. We're going to go right there. It's basically we anchored in right here off of this lace work. We're going right there into that stitch. So you've got your chain work right here. And that actually might be a double crochet now that I think about it. But we're going to go right into that space. So you're going to have a little bit of space right here. And then you're going to go right in there. It's a stitch that's already been anchored into. And we're going to complete our triple crochet. And I let that get way too stretched out. Let me do that again. So if you're looking at your work like this, see where you anchored right there? That's where we're going. So we're going to try that one more time. I'm going to go in right there. I am apparently trying to split my yarn like crazy tonight. And we're going to finish out the triple crochet. We're going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3. And we're going to go back into that same exact stitch and do another triple crochet into there. So if you lay this down and you compare it over here to your other side, we've got the same thing going on. That's a little more stretched out. Can you see? Can you see? Same thing. Alright, so now you're going to be moving on over to part 3, where we are going to transition back into the granny stitch. We're going to be doing 5 more rows of that, and then we'll be doing another section of the lace, but it will be working out in the center like this one right here. And then we'll do 5 more rows of the granny, and then we'll be finally down to the ending of the shawl will be worked like this right here without this extra foundation set up row. And we'll do all that together. So see you guys over on part 3, and hopefully we can fit all the rest of the shawl into part 3 and finish this tutorial on up. Thank you guys for watching as always. See you over at part 3.